Hello everyone and welcome back to Eat, Sleep, Reef. Today we'll be reviewing a little bit of a different product. This is the Eheim auto feeder. I was online looking for an everyday fish feeder, something that was pretty reliable. I typically work about 12 to 15 hour days. Sometimes I get home a little bit too late, forget to feed the fish. So this here is to feed them at least once a day. When I get home I can keep them frozen if I have time that day, and if not, at least I know they've already eaten for the day. So I did a little bit of research on Amazon. This seemed to be one of the best reviewed and best auto feeders out there. Of course, there is the Apex, but that's quite expensive. This one here I think was $28 or $29. And very reliable. It is the brand Eheim. It's the same brand I use for my heater, and I trust it very, very much. So I said, you know what? If I trust it in heaters, I feel pretty confident as a fish feeder as well. So this bad boy does have a 3-year warranty. I mean, I don't see it, having any issues. So, but it's great at least to know that it does have a 3-year warranty. So what we're going to be doing right now is opening it up from the box. And then we'll kind of get it set up, as well as show you guys how to quickly program it. Really nice features about this auto feeder. I almost said heater. This auto feeder is, it does do up to 4 different, it can do up to 4 feedings in a day, and per feeding, it can do 2 feedings in that one feeding. I don't know if that makes any sense. So typically your auto feeders, let's say if it's fed to feed at 1 o'clock, typically it'll do 1 rotation. So this one here, you can actually have it do 2 rotations per feeding, just in case you have more fish or whatever the case is. So that's a really nice feature of it. This one here does come with batteries, and it does give you alarms as far as when the batteries are running low, so that's another good thing. Also a very important thing, it's pretty difficult to see, but it is vented, so it does have a little fan. You can kind of see the fan there that keeps the food cool, so moisture doesn't build up, especially with flakes, and start clogging it. So that's a really nice thing that Eheim did. So let's open it up, show you guys what's inside. So here we do have everything out of its box. We have, of course, the Eheim auto feeder. It's actually a little bit smaller than I anticipated. I assumed it'd be quite a bit longer, but it's very simple. One thing I do like, this big button here that says Eheim, you pressing that allows it to auto or manually feed. So it's really cool. It has your 3 setup buttons, and then this is here where you control the door as far as how much is being fed. Everybody tends to have some pretty good reviews on it. I'll give you guys a few pointers out there with some quick tips to give you guys, if you are using some smaller size foods. But all in all, this is pretty much it. It does already come with 2 batteries. You can see here, comes with Velcro if you don't want to use a mount. So typically the Velcro would probably be mounted right there, and you can go about mounting it that way. And then of course you do have the bracket. And lastly, you have a very detailed manual. I briefly went through it, and I really, I think they cover every point in here. But I'm going to be showing you guys how to program it, so you can go off the manual, kind of go off the video. So what I'm going to do right now is quickly put in the batteries. To put in the batteries, there's this little lever here on the bottom. You kind of push it, and it opens up the back end here. Look, I'm able to do it with one hand. You can see here they add some lead weights to keep this whole system weighted down, because it's pretty light. So if you do put it on the edge of something so it doesn't tip over, you add some weight here on the back, which again is very smart of them. And then here you can see the fan. This is the fan that flows through the system. It will come through here and then come out through the top when you open this up, so allow ventilation in it. And then here it kind of shows you how to install the batteries. So I think the first one goes down, the second one goes up. I'm probably not going to be able to assemble it with one hand, but we'll still give it a try. Maybe I can. Let's see. Oh, look at that. I was able to assemble it with one hand. So here you can see, we're going to give it here a quick test as far as the manual feed. So just push the Eheim button. Oh, there we go. You can see there. So anytime you want to do any manual feeding, you're allowed to do it this way. And it's very quiet. I can barely hear it. So what we're gonna do right now is run through the full programming of this bad boy. And then, yeah, I think we'll end the video there, and probably I'll do a future follow-up video. But I don't expect it, being too many pointers. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. You set up once and kind of set it and forget it. So let's get right to it. So here you guys can see the manual broken down. You have a table of contents. Here you can really understand your feeder and what is what and how kind of everything works. It kind of lets you know also how to position it. Here it talks about the air intake, so the air comes in through here when the fan kicks on, and then it ventilates out through the front. You can see the little fan here. When I press the manual feed here, you'll see the fan kick on here. Check it out. You can see it. And it's, like I said, it's very quiet. Very, very quiet. There you go. So that fan again allows for moisture to stay out of here. Most importantly with flake foods, with pellets you probably won't have too much of an issue, but with flakes, if moisture does build up, obviously it's going to clog up and then it won't be a good day. So here it talks about the optimum placement. Obviously every tank's going to be different, so none of these may work for you. You're going to have to really decide in your tank what's best. Going through the initial setup here, obviously putting in the batteries, get that going. So the first thing we're going to run through is setting up the clock. You can see the clock's already been going for 3 minutes ever since I put in the battery. So it's 5:50 here my time. So the first thing we're going to do is press the button all the way here on the right, which is the set button. At that point we should have the hours here flashing, so let's press it. So here we have the hours flashing. So we're going to put it to 5 o'clock. Again, this is military time. And there's no way to go back. So once you go over your time, you have to recycle through it to hit again. So this is 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 5:50. So then we press the mode button. That'll get the minutes flashing and go all the way up to 50. And again, once you pass the number, you can't go back. You have to recircle through it again. So yeah. So 17:50. Again, this is in military time. 9:50. Okay, and then we press set here to save our time. So now our time is set. We can now go into programming it. Before we get into programming it, we're kind of going to go here by the manual. So if you guys are following along with the manual, you can here kind of see how I'm doing it. So filling the feeder is one of the first things, or after you set it up, what you're going to want to do. And it's very simple. You literally pull it back from the body. And I'm doing this all with one hand, so it's pretty difficult. There we go. You can see it's a nice mechanism the way it fits here, this flat spot. So it's pretty hard to strip it. You probably aren't going to strip it. And you can see the air flows through there. So when the fan kicks on, it's blowing air right out of here. And then again, that is followed by it blowing into here, finally coming out through the top. So that keeps everything ventilated. So obviously from this point, what you can do is, I think the lid comes off one of these two ways. Let me see. Okay, like that. Oh, they actually made it very simple. So actually, this is really nice. The whole thing opens up. So if you need to clean this or whatever the case is, you can easily fit your whole hand in there. And then obviously when you are done, there is a right and wrong way. This top latch kind of goes to here. And then, let me see. It's pretty straightforward, solid lock. Wow. I really like the construction of it. So once you're done, let's assume you put the food in there. You would then come back and assemble it, again with the flat spot towards the top, because that's kind of how it locks. So one of the next things we are going to be doing is understanding the programming. So the programming, I'm going to briefly break it down to you guys. I'm going to show you guys how I program it. But one thing to understand, you can program it to do 1 rotation or 2 rotations during each individual feeding, and it'll do 4 feedings in a day. So you can have each of those feedings, or 1 of those feedings, or 2 of those feedings do 2 rotations if you like. The rotations are done by the arrows. So for 1 arrow equals 1 rotation, for 2 arrows it equals 2 rotations. And here I'm gonna show you that right now. Right now it probably doesn't make any sense, but you're gonna see when we go through the programming. So let me quickly here get reset up, and then we'll get right into the programming and show you guys really how easy it is to set this Eheim auto feeder up. So here right now we're gonna show you guys how to program the feeding. So if you do want it to feed 4 times a day, you are able to program that. I'm only gonna show you how to program 1 time, but it's the same step for the rest. So Pressing the mode button all the way here on the left, you're gonna see number 1, 2, 3, and 4 light up on the top, and that is the different feeding times. So we'll press it once, you can see there's a 1 there, so that would be the first feeding time, the second feeding time, the third feeding time, and the fourth feeding time. So for you guys that are probably saying, well wait, all these are set to 0, so even if I don't program them, is it gonna feed every day at midnight? And it's not, because what determines the feeding is actually the arrow. So if there is no arrow, no feeding is going on. So you can see there's no arrow next to the 1, no arrow next to the 2, no arrow next to the 3, no arrow next to the 4. So that's what is going to determine your feeding. So don't think that at midnight every night it's going to be feeding. It kind of got me a little bit confused at the beginning, but yeah, that's that. So let's set up a feeding here. So I want my tank to be fed every day, probably, I don't know, probably like at 3 o'clock during the day. I mean, just to keep it easy, we'll do 12 o'clock. So just for, again, for video purposes. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna press the mode button, okay? And then we are gonna press the set button. So then the hours are gonna blink. So I want it to feed at 12. So at 12, obviously if you wanted to adjust the minutes, you can, but I want it to feed right at 12. So if you did want to adjust the minutes, you would go ahead and press the plus button here. Obviously, I don't need to do that. So next we're gonna press mode here. Okay, now you can see we have the 1 flashing here on the very top. So this is where we're gonna select the feeding. So by me pressing the plus button, you can see there's a down arrow. I don't know if you can see, but there's a little down arrow next to the 1. Let me try and focus on it. Okay, there you go. You can see there's a down arrow next to the 1. So that is 1 rotation at 12. If I press it again, that's 2 rotations at 12. And if I press it again, that's no feeding whatsoever. So even though it's set to 12, it's not gonna do anything because again, for it to do something, it needs at least an arrow facing down. The arrow stands for 1 rotation, 2 arrows stand for 2 rotations. So in my case, for video purposes, we're gonna do 1 rotation there, and then we're gonna press set. So you see? So if you want for video, to help you guys in the video, let's say we want a feeding at 12. So here we're on the second one. Let's say this one we want a feeding, oh wait, we want a feeding at, let's say a feeding at, one of them was at 12. And let's say we want another feeding at 1 o'clock. After this, we'll press mode, and then we'll press mode again. And let's say on 1 o'clock, we want it to do 2 rotations. Okay, so then we'll press set. Okay, and then to set up another feeding, what we'll do, that was at 1 o'clock, let's say at 2 o'clock, we're gonna do another feeding. So you can see the 3 highlighted there. So then we're gonna press set for the hours to blink. So this feeding is gonna be at 2 o'clock, right there. And then we press mode for the minutes to blink. We press mode again. And then on this one, we want it to do 1 rotation. And then here we press set. And then we're gonna set up 1 more at the 3 o'clock. So we're gonna press mode. So there, we're on the fourth feeding. So I would press set for the hour to blink. Twelve, 1, 2, 3. All right, went over. So we'll do this one at the 16th 100 hour. And on this one, we are gonna do, if you were adjusting the minutes, of course you would adjust it here, but I don't really care about that. We press mode again. So on this one, we're gonna do 2. Oh, I messed up there. So let me redo it. I accidentally pressed set. So anytime you press set, it's gonna save it, but it's very simple to edit it. We press mode. Let me see. Okay. Okay, here, we're on the 4th one. So I'm gonna press set right there. And we're gonna press mode. and mode one more time. And on this one, we're gonna do 2 feedings. You got it? So once that's done, you press set and it saves it. So if you wanna go through all your feeding schedules, you would click mode, and here they all are. One of them is gonna feed once, the second one is gonna feed 2 times, the third one is gonna feed once, the fourth time it's gonna feed 2 times. And I believe there's a minute delay in between the rotations. So if you do have them set up for 2 rotations, there's gonna be a 1 minute delay. And again, to check your times, what you're gonna do here is press your mode, and you can cycle. This one's gonna feed at 12, this one's gonna feed at 1200 hours, 1300 hours, 1400 hours, 160200 hours. And then there you go. So on the top, it's always displaying how many feedings you do have going on. But that is pretty much it, guys. As you guys can tell, I hope I didn't confuse you guys. You saw it, it's pretty straightforward. Again, anytime you do have the 2 rotations, I believe there's a 1 minute delay in between them. And a quick tip I want to give you guys. So this here is how you adjust. Let me zoom in. So this here are the latches, how you adjust the opening. So the first opening, so, I mean, there's just quite a bit of places where it locks. But let's say, for instance, let's say for you personally, this opening is too small and this opening is too big. You're probably saying, what the heck could I do? One thing you can do is put a piece of tape coming from here to here, so you actually block this whole piece off and you're just feeding from 1/2. That's what I probably recommend. Another thing I recommend for you guys out there, once you do set this, put a piece of tape over it so it doesn't move. So accidentally someone doesn't bump it and then it closes it, or it actually doesn't open it and it's overfeeding. So that's one thing I'd recommend. Any position you put it at, make sure you put a little piece of tape on it. And if, let's say that position is too big for you, just put a piece of tape and, you know, adjust it to whatever size you need. So guys, that is gonna be it for today on the Eheim auto feeder. Really hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it wasn't boring. I'm actually really excited to set this up because, like I said, I work long hour days. I do real estate, so sometimes I'm just in the office and I get home and I forget about the feeding, or I get home and the lights are already off. So this here will allow me to every day have the tank, you know, feed automatically. And yeah, guys, if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, please leave them down in the comment box below. And a quick tip I just really want to give you guys before we end: if at any point you want to stop it from feeding any of those, remember, just take off the arrow. So if you want, we can quickly run through it before I end this video. So we're going to press mode right there, and then we're going to press set. Okay, and then we're going to press mode again. Okay, so we're going to leave that one alone. Okay, and let's say we want to remove the second one. So right here we're going to press set, and then we're going to press mode again, and then we want to remove both arrows. So once we remove both arrows, it's no longer going to feed at that time. So then we can go ahead and press set. Wait, yeah, press set. There we go. I'm tinkering with this thing too much. Press set. Let me see. I'm in the wrong menu. Hold on. Okay. Let me see. Okay, there we go. So you can see I kind of got stuck in the menus a little bit. But now you can see as soon as you remove the arrows, it removes that feeding time for you. So it's only gonna be feeding these schedules. So that was just a little quick tip. I hope I didn't confuse you guys anymore. But yeah, the arrows is pretty much what determines whether you're feeding or not. I mean, a quick glance here, and you're able to see, you know, I'm only gonna be feeding 3 feeding schedules here. So, and one of which is gonna be 2 rotations, which is that last one. So that's gonna be it, guys. Any questions, comments, or concerns, please leave them down in the comment box below. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Happy reefing.